they say it's all about who you know, but do you really know how to nurture the relationships that move the needle? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Client Success Secrets Show. This is Patrick Heron, client success coach for marketing experts and founder of The Brave Advantage. This show is trying to answer one question. How can we help more entrepreneurs finish their online courses and coaching programs? Jason Schemmel is joining me today, and Jason has 13 years experience in digital marketing, pretty impressive, and he runs his own agency. And thanks to him, this is going to be our interview edition for the show. His client success secret of the day is relationship marketing. Hi, Jason. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, Patrick, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what you want to talk about today.
Yep. So a little bit about what I do. I've been, like you said, I've been in digital marketing for several years. About 11 of those have been in the corporate world. So doing social media management for brands and being in charge of the organic and the paid strategies and content around those. And then the other 4 years were spent at a large multi-level marketing company being a social media trainer there. So building workshops and training materials and stuff, training their salespeople on how to get more into relationship marketing and start building relationships rather than just putting themselves go out there asking people, will you buy from me? And so that's primarily why I'm here. What I want to talk about is relationship marketing and how you can really build leads and build prospects and then nurture them. So that way closing them is a lot easier and getting more sales is a lot easier.
Fantastic. So let me ask you first this question. What is the difference? What is the difference between relationship marketing and other types of marketing? Maybe I think that we're sort of pointing out a problem in the mainstream marketing world where relationships are not as valued. So how is it different what you do?
Yep. So with relationship marketing, it deals in like the early stages of the sales process. So if you listen to like Gary Vaynerchuk or other popular, influencers, if you want to use that term is still useful. A lot of them say, put a lot of content out there, content, keep putting stuff out there. And what I've been seeing a lot of people do is they'll put some useful stuff out there. Like, hey, I have this free thing. I recorded this 5-minute video on how to do this. Who wants it? And someone will say, sure, I'll have this. And so when they send it to them, it's immediately followed with, can we get on a call together? Like they want to start that sales process right away. And me being on the receiving end of that, I'm like, I haven't even reviewed your stuff yet. I don't know if you're valuable enough for us to get on a call. I don't know if what you're showing me aligns with what I'm trying to accomplish and stuff. So it kind of relates back to think of it like you're going to a networking event or like you just met someone new, like you shook their hand, you say each other's names, stuff like that. And then you just immediately go into this pitch of what you offer. Like no one does that, right? It's always how are you? Where do you work? What do you do? You start finding some common ground where you have some interest and you start building that relationship. Well, that's how business should be done. Because when you think about it, especially just in its most simplest terms, people buy from people they like, especially nowadays, because anyone selling anything, it's a dime a dozen. There's rarely something new to the process or anything like that hasn't already been done. But if you look at like the Temus and the Amazons and Facebook and all of that stuff, like there's so many different places to buy anything, whether it's services, products, whatever. So what's really going to make you stand out, sure, have that content, show that you know your stuff, show that you can provide some value. But for me, it's always a provide value until they ask. A popular business influencer, Alex Hormozzi, started talking about it. So it's coming back around because he's built himself up to a high enough stature where people are listening. And he's like, yeah, keep giving value until they ask, not ask for them to ask you for the sale and all that stuff, but just keep providing. And over time, you're going to build up that reputation enough where people are like, whenever they come up with an issue that they know you can solve, you're instantly going to be first to mind because you've built that relationship with them.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I really loved it. I didn't hear that, but it sounds great, actually. Mm-hmm. What you'll do is to break those barriers that the internet puts up. That's probably part of the problem too, where in order to become an expert and stand out enough, you have to really do a ton of work because people are exposed to so many other things. And I like to do this comparison between the offline world and the online world. how things get distorted so much. If I was to tell you, let's say, a couple of years ago, I had a YouTube coaching business. And what's curious is that a lot of people were asking me so many questions like, oh, why is it unique? Why do you charge so much?
Mhm.
And then when you think about it offline, you say, hey, I'm a YouTube coach. And most people are going to go like, that's so incredible. I've never seen anyone do that. It's
Yep.
just the opposite of the internet.
Yep.
And back to your point where you were talking about, honestly, it's so relatable. Your example that, oh, this is my freebie, and then boom, sales call, right?
Mhm.
It's so
Instantly.
relatable. So
They
relatable.
start asking you like the obvious questions. Could you use more sales? Well, yeah, who couldn't? Could you use more leads? Well, yeah, sure, who couldn't? So like they set you up, and like it's a sales process I've seen numerous times. Like they set you up with these obvious yes questions to get you to this, they want to get you on a call so they can go through their sales script and potentially close you.
That's it. And probably it would be helpful for people to imagine that they are actually in an offline setting. Your
Mhm.
example about networking was useful because you you will ask them, where they're from, what they do, like why they're here, instead of just going straight to the thing. It would sound like so robotic and so like invasive if you did that in person.
Oh,
Yeah,
seriously. Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, comparing what happens online to like in person, think of it going like you're walking down the street and someone hands you a flyer. You're like, here's this free thing. Here's this free bit of information. It doesn't matter what it is. Here's this free thing. And then you take it. And then all of a sudden they go right into a sales pitch. And you're like, wait, well, let me read it first. And then let's talk. But I mean, like, even then, if anyone does that to me in real life, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm going to pass on your freebie because I know what's coming after it.
completely. And so can you tell us more about what you do instead? Like if you had a client you see them doing that, um, how would you approach it? Like, would you, change everything around, or would you tell them, look, this is actually not as ethical? I mean, I find myself having probably a hard time if I was you telling them, hey, this is not like, this is not great.
Right. Well, the difficult thing is that unfortunately that sales tactic works. So it's hard to justify people who've already had success with it to change that, because like it's not that it's unethical. It's just it's not as genuine. And what would you rather have though? Would you rather push someone to get a sale and then they might leave after a few months because you kind of push them into the sale and they're not quite sure about it and they kind of regret, they have that buyer's remorse? Or would you rather build them up through that relationship? It might take longer to get to the sale, but then the lifetime value of that customer is so much longer, meaning you're going to earn a lot more off of that because you've built that relationship up. So I mean, what I would tell someone who's going through that is it's nice that you have the free content and you can follow that up with a question or two to provide as an option or an opportunity to build more value with them. So if you give them the freebie, you can follow that up with like, here's this thing, here's what it should help you do. Either you can leave it open-ended and say, let me know if you have any questions on this. I'd be happy to help you. Like, let them know that there's no sales pressure whatsoever attached to it. Or ask them another follow-up question like, hey, if this is a thing on prospecting, how's your lead generation or something like that? Or say, if you like this piece of content, I have this document or this video that goes into it a bit deeper. So like show them what the next step is. So again, it's not asking for the sale. It's like, let me be your guide, helping you along this journey. And then hopefully if you get to the end of it and you still have questions, or maybe you're overwhelmed, but you still want to have this done, then you're the expert because you've given them all this value. And they're like, well, obviously I'm going to go with this guy because he's taught me all this stuff. It makes sense. I either just don't have the resources for it or the time to do it. But he's like, I've seen him help other people and it's really intriguing. I want to have that experience too. And it helps so much more in increasing the lifetime value of a client.
You made a very important point, which is extending the lifetime value of a prospect.
Mhm.
And what happens in mainstream marketing, I like to use that terminology, is that we are looking for the quick sale. And
Yep.
you hear very successful marketers, maybe 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, teaching that stuff. And it's so shocking because they're going to have, even though they're still going to be super rich and they're probably going to continue growing, they have probably over 90% of people who are just that quick sale.
Yeah, their churn rate is so high. But they also don't care because they got the money up front. So like I still got my money, my bank account is padded. Look at this super fancy car, this mansion or whatever. And
yeah,
I'm just not that kind of person though. I'm like, I would much rather treat others the way I would expect them to treat me.
Perfect. Yeah. Complete alignment in there. So yeah, it looks like there are always like these two forces kind of, where we have like the whole, some people call it like the hustle culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you beat people up in the DMs, you put out a lot of content, you work an insane amount of hours.
Oh, yeah.
And that somehow produces results. And that's the worst part, because you see that it sort of works. And then you go like, I should continue doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then changing your ways to a more like humanized approach, it's a lot harder. And what's also harder is that you need to become that long-term thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, that's probably what's also making so many people fail in taking online courses and coaching programs.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
were sold on that expectation. They were sold on using the hustle culture strategies. And then, you either tire yourself out too much, or you beat yourself up, or like you are like have complete like no like life work balance. So yeah. And then like you said, you don't build like that long-term relationship. When people say like send 100 messages a day, I hear that a lot. It's just insane. I can't believe it.
I can't even imagine sending 100 messages in a day.
I know, right?
Can't even imagine it. But you think of it though, it's like, so think of like the popular coaches and consultants and stuff that say like, we've worked with Tony Robbins and Tom Bilyeu and like all these major players and stuff. And then it hit me one day. It's like, they only talk about the big names, not how many people they've helped, because I would bet that those big names were able to pay the big dollar amounts that got them to their 7-8 figure business and all that stuff. But it's built on the rare occasion that they can land a very high profile, high paying client rather than numerous clients and being successful that way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And there is also another important aspect there, where you will talk about your testimonials in a very particular way. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that the more people you help, the better. That probably should be a measure of how successful you are, right?
Absolutely. Think of any business that you've looked up on Google, or like even better, like Amazon. If you're looking for a specific product on Amazon and there's 10 different sellers, which one are you going to gravitate towards? The one with the most reviews. Especially like and I've done research on this, like the consumer psychology of it. Consumers would rather buy from a business who has a 4.2 rating, but 10,000 ratings, compared to another company that only has 150 ratings, but it's all 5 stars. They're going to trust the company that has more reviews, even though the review level is lower, than the one who doesn't have anywhere near as much. Like it's the volume that really speaks, volumes.
Exactly. And also, I think it becomes more credible in another way. The problem of making stuff up, it's unfortunate, but that's happening more. And I think it has a lot to do with how we perceive our self-worth to be. And you're like, I need numbers, otherwise I'm nobody, right? Yeah. And then if you have like 100 reviews, 100 are big enough to be credible, but small enough to be made up. But when we're talking about thousands, that's a lot harder to fake. Probably it's real, like it's gonna be real 99% of the cases. And yeah, that's how we go by. And again, that's how you also build that relationship, because somebody who's looking at your reviews, they've been exposed to your things a few times. It's not the one post and then the sale, like the direct messages.
Exactly. Yeah. It definitely takes more than one touch point to close someone.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And so yeah, it's super difficult actually to like make this shift. Like we have so many things against us, like the teachings of a lot of gurus, what a lot of people do, it works for a lot of people. So there's definitely, like, if I was to say what are the obstacles, right, of implementing relationship marketing, that's definitely it. But
Mhm.
we just have to push in the fight, because
Right.
we're going to win, and I'm
Well,
convinced.
again, it's the long game, because it's like it really just comes down to like what do you want to be remembered for? What kind of reputation do you want to have? Do you want to be known as someone who just has a ton of money because he was able to sell someone on something they may not have wanted? Or do you want to have the reputation of this, like, I feel like this guy had my best intentions at heart and really wanted me and my business to grow. And because of that, we were both successful. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about just creating win-win situations. Like I don't want to oversell someone on something if they don't need it, or have this massive price point to where I only need to make like 5 sales and then, and then I'm set and all that. I mean, it'd be nice. I'm not going to lie. It'd be nice to only have to make 5 sales and then I'm good, but I'm not going to lie. But at the same time though, I would much rather have a higher impact through impacting more people than just a few. At least that's what helps me sleep at night.
No, I completely understand. And just curious, so why would that be? I mean, have you seen yourself, beyond the money thing? Let's say that you could charge like 50K or even six figures for a
Mhm.
single deal. But obviously, the fulfillment will only allow you to work with, like, say, 5 clients at a time. Um, just to, sort of help you think about that
Yeah.
situation. What would it be like? Like, what is it good about it?
I mean, if I were able to sell 5 clients on like a 6-figure package for each of them, then obviously the value that I'm promising has to be so astronomical that that's going to take up my entire day. Like that's just, it doesn't matter how big of a team I have behind me. Like I need to be the front facing person of that for each of those clients. Cause if that level of promise of value is going to be there, then you damn well better follow through on that. Because you don't want to have some high profile person like that going, don't use this guy, because Lord knows they're going to have a wide and vast network who's now just blacklisted you. So again, like that comes down to the relationship marketing thing. It's like don't overpromise and underdeliver. But at the same time though, it's like, yeah. So I mean, for me, I've been an entrepreneur long enough. I've tried a couple other startups and stuff like that to know that the small guy needs help too. I mean, the world I feel would be a much better place if we had more people willing to take that risk of entrepreneurship and really do what they felt passionate about. Granted, it's not always going to work. I mean, that business is business. Sometimes you have an offer that to you, it sounds fantastic, but to the market, it's like, we just don't need it. Um, but I mean, I still feel people need to take that chance, take that risk and try it. But just there needs to be enough of a support system there and enough people willing to help them instead of just focusing on the 6-figure clients to help them out.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. You want to definitely help the little guy, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
There are
As
those
much as they
people.
can. I mean,
Yeah.
they still got to be able to pay and keep the lights on. So there's that too.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And it depends. Like, there are many variables. Like, when it comes to business, I have grown to like the approach of choosing a market that kind of already afford you.
Mhm.
But I do get why it's also important to tap onto that other market where people sort of need to be like a little more resourceful to be able to afford like coaching. Maybe come up with a $3,000 in a moment of notice. But
Mhm.
no, it's I definitely resonate with that. I think it has a lot to do with my mission to helping entrepreneurs with their courses, right? Because basically they are the today I had an interesting realization where the people who are taking these programs, they somehow came up with the money,
Mhm.
but they lost the battle like halfway through. And that is like so sad, because they actually you know had the initiative, they took a risk, but the things didn't work out, which is awful.
Yep.
But you know what? Back to you, actually. Just wanted to see how we like had a similar mission, which is
Mhm.
amazing. But I wanted to ask, you more stuff where like how you started all of this. You said that in entrepreneurs that there should be more. You took a risk.
Mhm.
So what was it like for you when you got started?
Yeah. So for me, the start on my entrepreneurial journey was kind of a strange one, at least for me, because it was an idea that a friend and I had for a couple of years. We'd always been kind of like toying around with it, like it'd be nice if this existed, that kind of thing. And then he went off and worked on other projects and stuff. And I had this opportunity to submit an idea into a business idea pitch competition for seed money. I'm like, well, we've got this pretty well thought out and all that. So I'll enter it and just see what happens. But what had happened before then was this was a monthly competition locally in town. And I had helped a couple of other marketers and other people that I was connected with get their ideas selected because it was all by public vote. So every month through public vote, you would have to put up your business and what it's about and everything and how it brings value to the community and to the business world and all that stuff. And then through public vote, they would get $5,000 in seed money to launch their business. And so through a couple of the groups that I was in, they'd say, hey, I have this thing. It'd be great if you could help support it and all that stuff. And so I'd say, absolutely, I'm going to help you. Let's do this. And so I told my vote for them and all that. So when it came my turn to put an idea in, I put it out there. And then all of a sudden, relationship marketing, I had this laundry list of people going, I got you because I helped them before, gave them value. And then all of a sudden I got value back. And so because of that, my idea got selected. In short, it was, so you know how we have like ZipRecruiter and stuff like that, where people can post jobs and people can apply for jobs, stuff like that. Mine was more for the startup and entrepreneur community to connect them with college students who were just about to graduate. Because on the college side, students were always like, I just graduated school. I have this 4-year degree. I have all the student debt and all that stuff, but I want to start applying my degree, everything that I've learned into this field. But they were also met with this wall that was pretty much, you need to have 2 or 3 experience, even in an entry level position, to do this job. And it's like, well, you say I need experience, but I can't get experience if I can't get a job.
Oh,
But I
that's
can't
the
get a
worst.
job because I don't have experience. So we're trying to bridge that gap. And then with startups, but not in entrepreneurs, a lot of them are bootstrapping it. They don't have a ton of capital to work with. So it's like, what if you could bring on a college student as like an intern or something, pay them what you can, but essentially you're providing them that experience and you're getting a specific need filled, whether it be graphic design, coding, marketing, whatever. That way, startups and entrepreneurs get the stuff done that they need done, and the students get the experience that they can put on their resume, maybe get some referrals, and they can finally make that next step to the job that they're looking for because they have that experience. And so the business model itself was sound, but then I won the money, and then I didn't have the support system to guide me along those steps to actually build a successful business. So a good chunk of my money went into building a website. It looked terrible, but it was functional. And then from
I just want to remind our audience 1 second that he started 13 years ago. So
yeah,
sites were not easy or cheap to
they
build.
were not easy. It was a WordPress site. It cost me half of my money. It cost me $2,500 to put this thing together. If you'd ever used Craigslist and like remember how that user experience or that user interface was, it looked very similar to that, to give you an idea of how not pretty it looked, but it worked. So got the website done. And then the hardest part then was the chicken and the egg. Do I go after the startups and the entrepreneurs first, or do I go after the students first? And it's really hard because you start talking to students and they're like, well, do you have any jobs available? I'm like, well, not right now. Then they think, okay, well, I'll sign up when you have jobs available. And then go to the entrepreneurs and the startups and like, well, do you have any labor that's ready to fill these? I'm like, well, no, not yet. I'm like, all right, well, talk to me when you do. It's like, well,
Oh.
what do I do? So, and at the same time, I'm also working a full-time job and all that stuff too. So like trying to balance everything, building networks and building relationships with universities and entrepreneurship groups and startup groups and all that stuff just burned me out. And so after it was like 6 to 9 months or something like that, I'm like, this is too much for me. I need to take a break. And I didn't pick it back up again. So that's part of what got me back into working digital marketing and everything. Now that's why I've got the agency here, because while I've been working full time through the corporate world and all that stuff, I had been doing some contract work, some freelance work and stuff. So building up my my portfolio of stuff that I've worked on. So now that I have my agency, I have some testimonials and some reviews that says this guy knows what he's doing. So it worked out that way. It was still a valuable experience because, I mean, failure sucks. Not gonna lie, failure absolutely sucks, but it is such a learning opportunity because at worst case scenario, you found out a way how to not do something, and that's still valuable knowledge to have.
I couldn't agree more. And as a matter of fact, I even sometimes jokingly speaking, I call myself the failure expert. And
Yep.
and it is so true. You can learn so much from failure, but at the same time, you develop that resilience. Like
Mhm.
I like to believe that you might experience failure even today, but
Absolutely.
it won't hit you the same way.
Yep. Yeah, because the first 10, 20 times you hit failure and you experience failure, you think, I am the worst. I am terrible at this. What am I doing? Why am I wasting my time, my money, my resources, and everything? Then after a while, you start getting used to it, be like, okay, I just learned how not to do something, or I learned how to better improve upon it because of this experience, whether that be a sales call, a conversation, or maybe a fulfillment that didn't work out well. And you're like, okay, well, I learned something from that. And now you can take that and apply that to the next time you come face to face with it. So as long as you take something knowledgeable and you take wisdom from it and you move forward, it's still a failure to a degree, but it's more of a it was more of a learning experience than a failure.
Exactly.
It's only a true failure if you let it stop you.
Completely.
Mhm.
And I'd like to point out, maybe this would be useful for our audience, is that when it comes to failure, yes, it is true that you have to be resilient. You have to put up with, all that nonsense,
Yep.
actual disappointments, also your own negative thinking. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge that there is a moment, right after the failure happened, where you're going to feel bad about yourself. And this is, over time, it's going to get better. Right? This is more or less like inevitable. It's going to happen.
Mhm.
But you got to remind yourself, if you are also working with clients who are disappointed, remind yourself that it's not going to last. This is the bad emotions. You can let go of them. Don't let them become a story. And then that's how, you reflect on them. And like Jason was saying, you can pull some wisdom out of it, right? That wisdom will move you forward. And not only you will learn something about business, obviously, but you'll also learn something about yourself. Like, why is it that this went so wrong?
Yep.
And then you will start looking around circumstances, also looking at your mindset and looking at, your actual like business foundation and skill set. Maybe you're not that great at, certain things like public speaking or sales calls or writing content. You'll go like, okay, like you want to like get through the painful part, remind yourself that it's temporary, and then, pick yourself up and try something different again.
Right. Well, and also always think, when you do figure it out and you do start finding success, it is going to feel so much sweeter, especially after you've experienced failure, because you're going to think, everything that I went through that got me to that point to where I'm now successful, it was worth it. It doesn't feel like it in the moment when you experience that failure, but when that failure starts building up and then you reach success, you're like, that whole journey was suddenly worth it. And you feel, and it's like this massive weight off your shoulders. And then not only that, though, you start becoming the coach to other people because you've experienced both sides of it. So when you see someone going down that path of that's going to lead to failure because you've been there before, you can say, hey, wait a minute, let's talk. And you can help them through that and maybe help them avoid making the same mistakes that you did.
Yeah, honestly, I almost feel like you're reading my mind. Just get out of my head.
Yeah, like, I haven't been down this road before.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, I'm completely like with you on that part. So I wanted to ask you about how you you mentioned in previous conversations with me that there is an aspect in your service that is done for you.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know more about that and why you think it's so effective for your clients to be successful.
Yep. So the done for you stuff. So like my agency, we have three primary packages. The first one is just digital advertising. Our team will do Google and Facebook ads for people, just managing it for them. But I mean, not just managing though. We'll help them strategize, plan, build the campaigns, do the research and everything for them. It is legitimately done for you. I mean, we're still going to need some inputs to make sure that we're targeting the right people, but like we'll have the creative and all that stuff done. We just want to make sure that for the done for you part of it, you don't have to think about it. There's still some discovery work and some research that goes into it. But once that campaign goes live, the only thing you're going to be worried about are the monthly reports that we give you that says, we did this, like we were able to get you these kind of results based off of the ad budget and everything. The second one is search engine optimization. That's another package that we do. So there's SEO, keywords, it also includes backlinks, blogging, emailing, a bunch of different stuff. And then our biggest one, our high ticket one, is basically a complete marketing takeover where you don't have to worry about marketing at all. Our team just does it for you. So let's see if I can remember it all. That's Google, Facebook, Bing, and YouTube ads management, organic YouTube and Facebook posting on your brands, website maintenance, blogging, backlinking, all of the SEO stuff, email marketing. We'll have video editor, graphic designer. There's a couple of other things I'm missing too, but I mean, but it's basically, if you don't ever want to worry about your marketing and just worry about how full your calendar is about to be with leads and calls of not just anyone who will click on your website, but like qualified actual people interested in whatever service and product you're offering. That's what we do for them.
Amazing. That sounds like a ton. I mean,
it's a lot. We got the team
yeah.
to do it. Just, we want to take the stress of marketing off of business owners, because especially being like for us, we can help anyone, just about anyone in any type of market or niche. Our advertising targets more of like the home service companies. So like roofers, solar panel installers and stuff like that. But we do that because we understand that those people need a lot of help. You know, they're not big teams. It's usually like 3 or 4 people working on a lot of stuff, wearing a lot of hats. And we want to be able to relieve some of that stress for them so they can focus on what really brings them joy, which is working on more of like the customer interactions and doing the work. They don't want to be the ones telling like, hey, we can install your roof, we can remodel your house and all that stuff. They would rather just take the calls, talk to them on how they can help them, and then just do the work.
Completely. Yeah. And I think that you pointed out something interesting about this whole, becoming a marketer like speech. So we, the startup entrepreneurs, they are always sort of brainwashed almost in the idea that they are marketers. They have to become marketers. Like there is no other way around it. And I'm curious about how much of a done for you service would you offer to somebody who's more on the side of like starting out? I'm not sure how beginner, like how far you go when it comes to beginners, but can you tell me more about that? Would you go like full in with it done for you?
I mean, if they could afford us, absolutely. But that's the thing though, is like we got to be able to pay our staff to do the things that we need to do to fulfill that. So, but if there was someone just starting out, this goes right back to like phase 1 of the relationship marketing. This is where we have a lot of lead magnets and a lot of free content to help you get started. A lot of it is going to be more of like understanding what to do and what not to do to help you get to that point to where hopefully you can sign on a few clients and then eventually afford our services so we can take you to higher heights. I mean, but for someone who may not have a lot of resources starting out and stuff, that's where the beginning part of relationship marketing works, where even though we're busy servicing clients and everything, we still want to put value out into the community so that way they can learn and they can better understand not only what we do, but how it's going to better their company as well. And then hopefully they can apply that. And like I said, get a couple of clients, just start generating some revenue. And then when they're ready to take that next step to where they don't want to have to worry about it anymore, that's where we can come in and just take it over for them. And the nice thing about that is that they also have a pretty good idea of what we're doing. Just they don't have to worry about it anymore.
I see how it all ties back to the relationship marketing thing. And I wanted to ask you if it's a common like trend in your done for your clients, if or even like coaching clients, if it
Mm.
applies, if they have, if there are some of them are people who went through your free and low ticket content first, and then they sort of became that ideal client that you could work with.
Mm. There's been a few people who've done that, who've applied the content that we've provided. And it's a great feeling when they come back and say, hey, I've done this. It works. Like those are my two favorite words. It works. I love hearing that. Yeah, we've had a few people do that. And then on the flip side of it, we've also had people consume a lot of our content and go, holy crap, this is so much. There's so much detail to it. I don't have the funds up front, but I'm going to find a way to get the funds, whether that's through like an investor or loan, whatever and stuff. But like, I want you to do this for me because I understand how valuable this is.
Damn, yeah, that must feel good.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
I
mean,
have,
and even more so when people tell us that, like, well, now we're really going to make sure that we're successful because we don't want you to regret taking this even bigger risk to take a chance on us. We're going to make sure we get it right.
yeah, things are at stake. You're a superstar.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was going to say something else about that. So, and then yes, I have a say for the social proof. I'm tend to be critical towards some of the social proof that gets like published out there. Oh, our
Mhm.
client made like $1 million in 3 weeks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just super crazy, and obviously that's far from average, right? They probably have one person done that.
Oh, that is the rarest of rare. Now, granted, we also have a very rare happenstance like that as well, but it's only happened once.
Oh,
We're happy it happened, but it's only
for sure.
happened once.
Exactly. So, and I have a different approach actually. When which totally aligns with this relationship marketing idea, where I like to say, if it works for you, it works for you.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's like
you
that
take
kind
it
of
from
brings me
there.
back to like the whole term of like best practices and stuff. That is, I'm not a fan of that term because people will put out like, oh, this is my best practice. I did this thing and I followed this strategy and it worked out for me. It'll work for you too. I'm like, maybe. Like the thing that annoys me the most about best practices is that when someone puts it out there, especially like an influencer or something like that, that's like my favorite example I like to tell people is, if I'm on Instagram or if I'm on Twitter or LinkedIn, the best time to post is 3 o'clock on Thursday. And if they have this huge following of like 300,000 people and all of a sudden 300,000 people start saying, oh, okay, I'm going to start posting at that time. That's no longer the best time to post because now you're competing with this massive influx of other content and now you're just adding to the noise. And so what I like to remind people, especially when it comes to stuff like that, is take everything with a grain of salt. Even if they said like it doesn't have to be best practices, but they say, I came up with this 5-step strategy on how to 2x or 10x my revenue or my closed calls and all that stuff. I mean, still consume the content because you can still take some valuable content or some valuable takeaways from that. But I would caution against your expectations with it. You can still try it. You never know. It could work for you. Just manage your expectations with it because if you take that verbatim and if you don't see the same results, you're instantly disappointed. But then you also got to think this person that put it out there probably has a bigger audience than you, probably a more active and engaged audience than you because they already have the resources behind it to put in front of it. They've probably been talking up this type of content before. They probably have more reviews, more testimonials, that higher reputation and everything. So anything that they put out there is going to do more than what you could do if you were to start this process today. Everyone's audience is different. Everyone's delivery and the content is different. Even if it's like a video series, how you and I interact and like, and act on camera is going to be different. So, take it for what it's worth. Information is still valuable. Just manage your expectations with it.
Very good advice. You will want to be like conscious as well. I remember seeing an email the other day. I got it a marketing guru who I like he's great.
Mhm.
And he's very like anti-mainstream. Obviously that speaks to me. And he was saying, don't outsource your thinking. That's such a
Yep.
simple way of putting it. And at
Yep.
the end of the day, they might be the experts, but that doesn't mean that you don't have any judgment or consciousness for yourself.
hmm
You will want to, judge the situation or the advice for what it is and how it will work for you. So my advice, I guess, is that, like Jason said, manage those expectations. Remember that the entrepreneurial journey is uncertain, and no matter how great you are, or what a massive like track record you have, you could still like fail. Things could go, you know,
It is possible. Yep.
down. It's always possible. The biggest companies in the world, they fail on a regular basis because they know they have to take those bigger risks to see if something, turns out to be like their next hit, or
Mhm.
maybe an absolute blast, an absolute like flop. But they are willing to do so.
Yep.
And yeah, so and then you will want to so you manage the expectations, you take things with a grain of salt, and then more super important, just try it out.
Yeah. Just test it, because you never know. You never know. There's been ad campaigns. There's been pieces of content that I've tried. Like, I'll go with the ad campaigns. So there's been times I've worked with a client where I think this ad copy is going to be fantastic. I've done the research on it. I've seen what works and what hasn't worked with your competition and everything. I think this is really going to stand out. And then the client comes back and goes, okay, but I think this is going to work. And it's a different blurb that they give me. And it's something just completely different from what I put together. And I'm like, okay, I would be very surprised if it works out, but sure, I'll put it in there just because I like to test. And I've been humbled more times than I can count, because the one that I thought was going to do great, it did okay. It did okay. But then the random one that I thought there's no way it hits, it just goes nuts. And I'm like, okay, I learned something. Like the nice thing is that it's not a failure, because I learned something, and we got the client more success. But yeah, it's just interesting sometimes, like no matter what, especially in social media, just test it, because you never know what'll happen. And it'll surprise you sometimes on what your audience will engage with, whether you think it's great or it's complete crap. To the right person, if it gets them to click and comment and be more interested in you and your business, it's a win.
Absolutely. I think that's a great reminder, even for me. I tend to think a lot about what I'm going to post on social media, and you'll never know what's gonna hit. You could be super sure about something,
Mhm.
but it's just gonna flop at the end. And people are
Yep.
like, damn, it didn't. And you spent so much time like putting that together and just didn't work, right?
Right.
So yeah, you want to like have that balance to like stick to the principles, but at the same time be wild with your testing.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Still put that thought into your content and stuff, put that out there, but then at the same time, throw some random stuff out there and see, make sure it's still useful to the audience and everything. Don't just put anything out there. But again, manage expectations, but give it a try. You never know.
Of course. Awesome, Jason. So if there was something that you could share that you want the audience to remember, what would you say?
I mean, to keep it as simple as possible, treat others the way that you would expect to be treated in return, especially when it comes to business. If you don't like people who are pushy in their sales script and all that stuff, don't be that person either. If you would much rather have someone who makes you feel like they have your best intentions at heart and they really are genuinely curious and want to help you reach success, not just for their own gain, because they get to use you as a success story, but they actually want to see you succeed, associate more with those people and be that type of person.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Jason. That was incredible. And yeah, honestly, I could spend hours talking with you. Like there was so much good stuff going on. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This was the Client Success Secrets Show interview edition. Jason Schemmel, relationship marketing expert. I just gave you a new name. So
I'll take it.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Take care.